tag say bless 6 or bless G. One or the other. It definitely says bless. All right, hey, so shalom. Call the law, Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH is giving all praise to the Most High. In the name of His only begotten Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to our teachers, the elders, and apostles. Great millstone, taught us His truth and sincerity. He says salutations. Hopeful that scattered abroad, shalom, 144,000. And double honors to our head elders and apostles and Great Millstone and the bishops on down. And men who taught us His truth and sincerity. Peace and salutations. Hopeful that scattered abroad. All right, want to emphasize on that again because that's what this is all about. The elect, all right, who are sincere and who have come to understand what this is all about. All right. And the inspiration for this video, okay, it's going to be a quick live in the spirit. But the inspiration from this video came from a movie I watched. I think I might have watched it before, but I actually watched it again and actually paid more attention to it. And it was funny, but it was a movie No Pain or Pain and Gain, or it's Pain Gain, all right, something like that, with Mark Wahlberg, The Rock, all right, and the other, Jake from, Captain America, that new Captain America movie. And I thought it was funny because, it's a comical movie, but it was based on a true story. It's basically about these gym buffs, these gym heads that was, always in the gym, and they basically wanted, and it was like I said, it was a true story. I didn't know it was an actual true story, but these guys, they wanted to make some money. All right, it was all into the gym, but then they started doing crime, to try to make some money, And the movie was called Pain and Gain. All right. Which, how we do, we like to know everything to its truth, to these scriptures, okay? And that's how we get a better understanding. So I'm going to start off with James chapter 1, verse 19. It says, wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of the Most High. And in that movie, you had those idiots, bro. They was all juiced up on the roids and stuff, and they was committing these crimes, and they was just pretty much winging it. But they was going all out for what they was trying to accomplish. They was going all out for what they was trying to accomplish, and through the Spirit, that's kind of how we gotta be for YAHAWASHI, willing to do whatever it takes, in this walk, spiritually. So even the whole term, no pain, no gain, that's where that comes from. All right? No pain, no gain. All right? So we're going to have to catch all kind of hell, go through trials and tribulations, pain and suffering to get to the end. It often reminds me of the movie Endgame with Thanos. Okay, the Avengers Endgame with Thanos. And when he accomplished what he wanted, he had his daughter asked him, "Did you get it?" And he said, "Yes." And she said, "What did it cost you?" And he said, "Everything." Okay, so in this walk, the Lord is going to try us and test us and chastise us, man. Okay, it's called the chastisement of the Lord. And in that, the Lord breaks us down and builds us back up. And it's ultimately so we can get the kingdom. You got people of this world that's not really being chastised like that, and on such a spectrum. The Lord don't care about them, but He's concerned with His elect. Okay, that's who He's concerned with. That's who the Lord is, dealing with. All right? Salakio, maybe it can be better now. Lord willing. All right? But yeah, so through the Spirit in that movie, they showed you how these idiots in this movie was willing to go above and beyond to accomplish what they wanted, and they got it for a season, you know, in wickedness. But how much more us in righteousness, where we're gonna get for eternity, man? All right, a kingdom prepared for us. So read it on. It says, wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engulfed word, which is able to save your souls. So us getting this word, understanding this word, you know, receiving this word, and going as far out to teaching this word, that's what's going to be able to save our souls, man. Okay? Scripture says, save yourselves from this untoward generation. This place is wicked, bro. We live in a wicked, demonic world. All right? Where in order to get ahead in this world, you got to do some wicked shit. This is why they talk about the Illuminati and the black casting couch. You got niggas that's willing to sell their ass for riches and fame. Okay? Their morals, their integrity. All right? Sell themselves short for temporary gain. Okay? For a corruptible crown. But the crown that we're striving for is going to be incorruptible. Okay? Eternal. All right? But your average person, your average Joe, you know, couldn't comprehend that. It says, and here's the point, because this is something he kept saying in the movie, which ultimately inspired me to do this lesson. He kept saying, I'm a doer. I'm a doer. They asked him, why did he do it? He said, because I'm a doer. All right? And even in that, it was better to be a doer than just to be a hearer. How much more in this truth? Okay? We come into this truth, we heard this word, but you're supposed to, you know, grow in this thing. Once you hear this word, you gotta, you know, do the necessary, you know, work to help further and accomplish it. Scripture says every man got to put in their brick. And as you can see, I'm in transit, so that's why I'm quoting more than I'm reading, because I'm on this road. But you know, it's all for the edification of the elect, man. All right. It says, but be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. You see? So we got to be doers of this word, not just hearers. You came into this truth by hearing. Scripture says, faith comes through hearing, roughly paraphrasing. Lord can grab that. All right? So once you heard this word, that was one thing. Okay? Then it became a part where you start doing it, you know? You got to put in your brick, you know? Add to the ministry, add to the body. It says, for if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. You see? For he beholdeth himself and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. And this is what happens when you got people that's just listeners. They're not really, you know, concerned with doing the work. They're more so they'll hear it, but then they go back to about their normal life, you know, still in sin, still in wickedness, and it hasn't changed them. You see, for the elect, this truth is going to change you. When you heard this word, it changed you. It changed you. You know. And that's the beauty of this word, you know. That's the beauty of it. YAHAWASHI sets up certain, you know, avenues for us to be, you know, for us to grow. I was going to talk about that with the brothers earlier. You know, it might be a demon at your job fucking with you. You know, Jake, you know how Jake is. Jake got demons on him, so the Lord will use these people. He'll put spirits on them to mess with you and to vex you for your purpose. All right, it ain't about them. If we be the elect, it's about us. So the Lord have certain things happen where certain individuals will come up against you or treat you a certain type of way for your growth. Okay, for you to, you know, to flourish. Okay. But these other individuals, the Lord's just using them. They're just pawns in the game. All right? Let's go right here. Chastisement.
right, chastise. Bear with me 1 second. Let me see. I ain't gonna make this long. I'm quick in the spirit. That's on my spirit because of the sex I watched that movie. All right. Oh man, this phone is acting crazy, bro. Let me see. Choice. All right, this is Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 30 and verse 1. It says, "He that loveth his son causeth him oft to feel the rod, that he may have joy of him in the end." And this is like, those of us that have children, you gotta, consider the rod, you spoil the child. So you gotta, you have to discipline your children. You have to chastise your children, or they're gonna grow up to be complete monsters. We got these Edomites that don't, chastise their children, and they grow up and they started, taking guns to school and shooting up schools and shit. Pretty much taking other people out with them, okay? Because they've become monsters. It says, "He that chasteneth his son shall have joy of him, and shall rejoice of him along his acquaintances." It's like and shall rejoice of him along his acquaintance. "He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy, and before his friends he shall rejoice in him." This is not what I was looking for. Let me see that. Let's do like this. Chastisement. All right, that's not what I was looking for. But that works too. Because we are the sons of the Most High. Okay. We are sons of the Lord. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. Let me turn this camera off too. All right. This is, like I said, just quick one in the spirit. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 12. All right. This is Hebrews chapter 12. And verse I'm gonna start at verse 1. It says, "Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight." Oh man. It says, "Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us." Yeah, because it's easy to go off. All right. It's much harder to be in the spirit and fight. It's much harder to want to do what's right and do it. Most people, they end up falling out because they get overtaken by their flesh. They get overtaken by this flesh, man. And that's not something that we should be in. So lucky for that noise. That's my damn brake fluid. I'm supposed to put some in when I get to the house, but it's all right. All right. Let me finish this up. We'll close out. But it says, "Looking unto Yahawashi, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of the Most High." And that's another thing too. We gotta you gotta bear your cross, man. All right, we all gotta bear our cross. So whatever the Lord got in store for us, we gotta take that on the chin. That's a part of this thing. It says, "And is set down at the right hand of the throne of the Most High. It says, for consider him that endureth such contradictions of sinners against him, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds. And this is what we got to come to understand too. That's the whole point of the lesson. No pain, no gain, because you're going to have to catch hell. We're going to catch hell. We're going to go through shit. We're going to suffer, you know, as we suffer with YAHAWASHI. And that's necessary for us to grow, for us to become better, you know, in the spirit, okay? It says, lest you be weary and faint in your minds, you know? So you have to remember this. Ye have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin. It says, and ye have forgotten the exhortation which speaketh unto you as unto children. And this is what this is about, the exhortation, man. Okay? The exhortation. We in a time of exhortation right now. You know, exhorting you to continue in the faith. Shalom, YAHAWASHI, Shabbat Shalom. Exhorting you to continue in the faith, man. All right? Exhorting you to endure. Okay? In the time where you're going to be tried the most. We coming into the most trying time ever of our walks, bro. You know, we're coming into the climax of this movie. Okay, it's going to be very exciting. It says, my son, despise thou not the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him. And this is the time we're coming into where it's going to be more chastisement, more affliction, more hell, more resistance. All right, so you can't despise that chastening. You can't despise, you know, those scourges. It says, for whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, which means to afflict, okay? And scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. You see, like I brought it in the last precept, you know, when you have you know, a child, a father and his son, the father chasteneth the son so that he doesn't grow up to be a complete nincompoop, a monster, you know? And this is why you see these YNs now, because they don't have fathers in the house, so they have no structure, okay? They wasn't chastened. So they just go about their life living, you know, however they want to live, and they don't live there very, very long. They end up getting locked up in prison for a great majority of a portion of their lives, or they get killed, gunned down, whether it be through gun violence or you know the police go mow them down, okay, because they wasn't chastened properly. And this is why the Lord is doing this for us, so that we can ultimately endure, so that we will be able to strive and endure to the end. Reading on, it says, if ye endure chastening, the Most High dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if ye be without chastisement, whereof are all partakers, then are ye bastards and not sons. Okay, you see, that's how you know that the Lord is really dealing with you, through the chastisements, okay, through the sufferings, the afflictions. It says, furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits and live? Right. You have fathers in your flesh, you know, your own father who chastened you, you know, and you know, corrected you. All right. So shall we not much more be in subjection to the Father of spirits? Because as you get older, your physical father can't chastise you anymore. You know, he can't whoop you anymore or you know, really scold you anymore, because now you're grown. Well, we are subject to the Father of spirits. Okay. It says, for they verily for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. And this is why this is why we do catch hell. Like the title of the lesson, no pain, no gain. Don't just be a hearer of the word, but a doer of the word. You're gonna have to get your hands dirty. Okay? This is a hands-on, man. Okay, this is not a spectator sport. All right? Speaking to you men out there. Okay? And now everybody ain't gonna be on a prophet. Everybody ain't gonna be on the level of the disciples, or Salaki, the apostles. Okay, everybody is. It's not in everybody's spirit to do a video every day. We understand that, but there's other things you could do. You know, whether you're a reader, a teacher, you know, or just being charitable. You know, be charitable unto the body. The Lord might bless you with more possessions, more, he might bless you more financially. That's not for you to go out and buy a new Mercedes Benz every year. That's often for you to help, you know, the ministry. You know, it's like when we read the account of, you know, when the Lord that has and come and, you know, follow me. You know, but your average, you know, nigga ain't gonna comprehend that. And that's the thing about this world. It's all about pain. I mean, it's all about the gain of this world. We understand that we are storing up treasures in heaven for the world to come. To hell with this world. This world doesn't matter. This world is already through. But it says, for they verily for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. You see, and that whole movie was about them being in the gym and exercising their bodies and whatnot. But we're exercising our spirits. You know, scripture says bodily exercise profiteth little, but it does profit. But you see, we're profiting, I mean, we're exercising our spirits, man. The Lord is exercising our spirits. Like I said the other day, when you go into the gym, what happened? They have to, you know, you're putting resistance upon your muscles when you're working out. Well, the Lord is putting resistance upon our spirits when we catching hell, when we're being chastised. You know, I was thinking about something that some of the brothers was telling me how, you know, at their jobs, you got demons at their jobs afflicting them and shit. And I say, hey, brother, that's a part of this thing. You know, I remember I had the same shit going on at my job. Niggas at the job was being demons and niggas, and you know, you like, damn, Lord, why the fuck I gotta deal with these niggas? But that's a part of this thing, bro. That's a part of the chastisement. That's a part of the Lord exercising your spirit. Okay? Because we come into a time we're going to be persecuted. Well, we're going to be hated by all men for BAHASHAM, Yahawah's name's sake. A punk-ass nigga at your job ain't nothing compared to what Esau about to come down with. So these are all, you know, the training grounds for something much, you know, bigger and greater. You know? So something beyond us. Okay? And beyond our flesh. It says, wherefore lift up the hands which hang down and the feeble knees. Yeah, because it might make you get, you know, feel weak in the spirit. You might, you know, start to, you know, to doubt and whatnot. And you got to check yourself, you know. As they say in the world, check yourself before you wreck yourself. These things are necessary. It says, and make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, and let it rather be healed. Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of the Most High, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and whereby many have, it's like it, and thereby many be defiled. You see, you can't get bitter in this thing, bro. You don't want to let that, you know, the hell you go through cause you to get bitter, or, you know, to you know, throw you off your purpose. You know, cast you off from YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI, the spirit of YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI. And we've seen that. We've seen guys who catch a little hell in this truth, you know, and they throw in the towel. Scripture says, what shall separate us from the love of YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI? So tribulation, persecution, you know, and it goes on and on. But really nothing should be able to separate you from the love of YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI. You got men that pretty much forsake YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI because they're catching a little hell. All right? And that's when you really got to check yourself, man. It says, lest there be, that's the point. All right? That's the point. All right? So that's just something in the spirit I was thinking about watching that movie, like I said. You know? We in that time, bro. You know, we are definitely in a time of chastisements. And the Lord gonna have to prove all of us, you know? Scripture says going to proving your own selves. We all gonna have an opportunity to prove ourselves in the spirit. This is why we're coming into the time of the hour of temptation. Okay, we're coming into the time of the hour of temptation where we're gonna be tempted with, all type of things. You know, I'll close out with that. Let's close out with that. I haven't brought that out in a minute, so let's close out with that. All right, what's that? Ecclesiasticus chapter 2. All right. It says, Ecclesiasticus or Sirach chapter 2, verse 1, it says, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. And this is what we've come to do. We've come to serve the Lord, Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI. So prepare your soul for temptation. You will be tempted. You will catch hell. You will be afflicted. You will be chastised. It just is what it is. And the sooner you come to understand and respect that, the further you will go in this truth. Like I said, we've seen guys come into this thing, catch a little hell and fall out. Throw on the towel. A little bit of affliction come upon them and they bitch up. That means they was gonna bitch up anyways. when it really came down to it, they was gonna bitch up anyways, man. I see a chariot called YAHWAH. That's the spirit right in front of me is a chariot. First of all, I thought it was a star, and then it moved. It moved, and then it just disappeared. Called YAHWAH. It says, set thy heart aright, which means your mind. As they say in the world, get your mind right. All right? Get your mind right. It says, set thy heart aright and constantly endure and make not haste in time of trouble. We're going to come into many different times of trouble. I had a dream one time where, I was like in this dream, I had to be like in the dead of the heat of Jacob's trouble, And in my mind, the Lord was dealing with me in my mind, telling me where to go, what to do. But I knew in my spirit, as I was in this dream, that I had already been delivered from so much. I had already been delivered from all types of hell and destruction, man. So when the Lord was talking through me in my spirit, telling me to go here, go there, do this and do that, I was listening. It was like that. It was like, clockwork, because the Lord had already delivered me from so much. So we're going to go through so much hell and tribulations and trials, but the Lord's going to deliver us from all of them. You might make it out you might be, scarcely make it out by the skin of your teeth. But the Lord is going to deliver us, and that's going to, build us up, build up our faith. Even when all hell does break loose and this shit does come down the pike, it's going to increase our faith because the Lord told us it was coming before it came. So that's just going to build us up in the spirit. But if you're not in the right mind state when this hell coming, you get thrown off by this, hey, it wasn't for you anyways. So these are important things to consider in this walk. You got guys coming this truth thinking that they just gonna receive a bunch of blessings. Yeah, we are greatly blessed, but we also gonna Salakia. What did Job say? Shall we receive good from the Lord and from the Most High, and not evil? All right, there's a balance, man. The yin and the yang, the cold and the hot. There's a balance. You're gonna have good days and bad days. Okay, and you're going to learn to appreciate both. It says, set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in the time of trouble. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. And that's what it's about. It ain't about, where we're at now. It's about that we may be increased at the last end. Okay? Scripture says, he that endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So these little, humps on, these little bumps in the road we got to get over. It's nothing compared to, what's coming. All right. It says, and that's the Lord training us for that day. Like that movie Training Day. The Lord is training us for that day. You know how that movie Training Day was. It was a good ass movie. I gotta watch that again too. But he said, the Edomite guy is like, no man, it can't be like this. It can't be like this. And that's how I take when it comes to this truth. When they find out you're going to suffer, you're gonna catch hell. Okay? This ain't gonna be no walk in the park. It ain't gonna be no la-di-da-da. You're gonna be in the kingdom of heaven. Scripture says, through much tribulation shall we enter into the kingdom of heaven. So he's like, it can't be like this. It can't be like this. And he said, it is like this. It is like this, you know? That's what what's the name said? Denzel's character said, you know? But that's the truth, bro. It is like this. Okay? This is what it is. This is a part of our suffering. This is a part of our faith. It says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state. So whatever we got to go through, whatever is brought upon us, take it cheerfully. Okay? Take it cheerfully, man. Hey, take it upon the chin. That's something that we say in the camp. Take it upon the chin, bro. You know? And when we constantly taking things upon the chin, we constantly taking all these L's so we can get the ultimate W. That's what it's about. You see, you got niggas in this world that they want the W now. That's why niggas sell out and, you know, will do whatever they do to try to get ahead, because they trying to get the W now. But guess what? We're getting the ultimate W later, and we're taking these L's now. All right? We're taking these L's now to get the ultimate W later. It says, and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state. With that word patience goes into suffering. Okay? I heard somebody tell me that one time. I don't lie. It was like, it was a woman. I don't like the wait. I don't like the wait. I don't like the wait because what? That's suffering. And that's how a lot of these women are. They don't like to suffer. Okay? And we can't be in that spirit. You know? That's a faithless spirit. You're going to have to suffer. Okay? Everything ain't just going to come on your time when you want it. It says, here's the point. It says, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. So that gold is being tried in the fire. All right, which that's us. We're being refined, which that's bring me to what I was going into with the Akim earlier. We're being refined. You know, your flesh like, no, man, fuck that, nigga. Man, no, man, fuck that. But what we in the spirit. So the spirit like, no, that's necessary. We need that. That's there to refine us. That's there to purify us. You know, to purge out that old nigga. You know how in the world, before coming to truth, the littlest shit make you feel like you gotta spaz out. You know, there's a baby a song that the baby, a lyric that the baby said. He said something about, if it was back in the day, something he said. I can't remember what the fuck he said, but it was something along those lines of, if it was back in the day, I would have went off in your shit. You know, and that was us. You know, but now we learn to be patient. We learn to take the suffering. We learn to take the low road, to take those L's. And matter of fact, embrace that. Okay, which is not easy. It's not easy at all. You know, being in this flesh. But we have to what? Remain in the spirit. And this is how we're going to endure into the end as well. Okay, because the time we're coming into, you're going to have guns in your face. You're going to have motherfuckers trying to threaten your life, trying to kill you on the spot. All these things is necessary for us to get the ultimate victory, man. No matter how bad it looks, the Lord is going to be with us. Okay, and that's the difference. Everybody else ain't going to be able to say that. They're not going to have that comfort. All right, so it says, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Believe in him, and he will help thee. Order thy way aright and trust in him. And that's what we're doing. You got to believe in the Lord, and he going to help you. Order your way right and trust in him. Okay? No matter what that's looking like. All right? It ain't going to be no walk in the park. It says, ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy, and go not aside lest ye fall. Ye that fear the Lord, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. Right? So, hey, the Lord scriptures, our labors are not in vain. Believe in him, and our reward shall not fail. This ain't for nothing, man. Not for nothing. This ain't for nothing. Okay? It says, ye that fear the Lord, hope for good, and for everlasting joy and mercy. And that's our hope. Okay, and the Lord said he's going to give us an expected end. It says, look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? For the Lord is full of compassion and mercy, long-suffering, and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in a time of affliction. You see? So the Lord is going to save us in this time of affliction. We're going to be afflicted. We're going to catch hell. But the Lord is going to save us in a time of affliction. Okay? It says, woe be to fearful hearts, which means, you know, you got a fearful mind. You know? You're starting to doubt. You're starting to lose sight. It says, woe, which means misery and destruction, be to fearful hearts and faint hands. It's ain't a time to have no faint hands, bro. We're seeing it. We're seeing guys that's just giving up, throwing in a towel, getting weak, faint hands. If you ain't did a video in 2-3 weeks, nigga, your hands getting faint, bro. Okay? And you gotta be, and that when that happens, you gotta pray those spirits off, bro. You gotta pray. You don't have to bite down, you know, and knuckle up. Okay? Don't let Satan get you. It says, scripture says Satan desires to sift you as wheat, which that's when you go into that word sifting, it goes into inward agitation. So you're gonna be agitated inwardly, you know. You might be doing good outwardly. You might, you know, not have a financial worry or anything like that, but inwardly you will be agitated. Okay. That's necessary, as I said earlier. It's a part of the exercising of the spirit. Okay. It says, I'm gonna close out with this. It says, you're ready to land this plane. But it says, woe be to fearful hearts and faint hands in the sinner that goeth 2 ways. Right, which means that ultimately you're doubting. You know, woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not. Therefore shall he not be defended. And that's the thing. You don't want to be, you know, not defended in this time we're coming into, bro. The best thing for us is that we be defended. The Lord be with us. You know, that he keeps us. It says, they that fear the Lord will not disobey his word, and they that love him will keep his ways. Oh, Salakia, I jumped the verse. It says, woe unto you that have lost patience. And that's what happens when Jake fall out or give up. They ultimately, you just lost patience. You know, this thing is about patience, you know, being patient and suffering in that patience, okay? Suffering through that, or being patient through the suffering. It says, for he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. All right? So the Lord ain't going to look out for you in that day because what? You lost patience, okay? It says, woe unto you that have lost patience, and what will ye do when the Lord shall visit you? They that fear the Lord will not disobey his word, and they that love him will keep his ways. They that fear the Lord will seek that which is well. It says, they that fear the Lord will seek that which is well, pleasing unto him, and they that love him shall be filled with the law. They that fear the Lord will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight, saying, we will fall into the hands of the Lord and not into the hands of men. For as his majesty is, so is his mercy. And you got to believe that, bro. As the Lord's majesty is, so is his mercy. So if you want the Lord to have mercy upon you, hey, all we can do is fall into his hands. Okay? Allow the Lord to do what he going to do and just fall in line with that, man. Which is a lot easier said than done. All right? That's a lot easier said than done, but it's necessary. All right? And it's possible. But you got to believe. All right? So once again, you know, that pain is for your gain. As they say, no pain, no gain. All right? So the chastisement we catching now, the hell we going through now is necessary for us to get the ultimate victory. Okay? It's necessary for our gain. This is why the Lord do these things for you. And when you first come into the truth, you don't understand it. But as you grow in this thing, you start to understand more and more why it's necessary for us to have to go through these things and catch these certain hells. It's all for our gain. All right, it's all for our gain, and that's what it's all about. All right. So don't shy away from or run from them opportunities for that spiritual exercise. Okay. That's what it's about. The spiritual exercising, man. All right. Just like you got to exercise your body, you got to exercise your spirit. All right. And the Lord does that, you know, through the chastisements, you know, the afflictions, the sufferings. All these things are necessary for us to get to where we want to be in the spirit, man. All right. So, hey, take that cheerfully. Take that hell, take whatever it may be, take it cheerfully. Through the spirit of Yahweh, BAHASHAM, YAHWASHI. Embrace it. Okay? And like I said, it's a lot easier said than done. But hey, it gotta be done. So don't just be a hearer of the word, but a doer of the word. As we learn this word and study this word, then you have to apply the word. You see? You got a lot of guys that's just parrots. They just out there, you know, squawk, squawk. You know, they're just, you know, like, you know, a parrot is just repeating what it hears. But it's different when you really actually start to apply these scriptures and you start to see them playing out in your life, you know? And that's why the Lord puts us in different situations where we have to, you know, deal with it, okay? That's all for the will of Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHWASHI to be established, all right? And we can't shy or run away from that, man, all right? But that's the point. I mean, it's too long. With that being said, I pray this was edifying to those for elect. Something quick in the spirit, man. All right, I'm back at my destination. Lord willing, you know, it's edifying to the elect. That's what this lesson is about. It's, you know, it be these lessons that's not really too entertaining, because Jake, you know, Jake like to be entertained. It be them lessons that's not really too entertaining, okay, or controversial, that Jake really need, okay, that you need to come to understand about the chastening, because we all catching hell right now, bro. Some way, form, or fashion, you catching hell. But that's necessary. That's the Lord. If you're catching hell, you're going through it, that means the Lord is dealing with you. Okay? That's a blessing from Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHWASHI. Because you would rather the Lord be dealing with you than for him not to be dealing with you. You'd rather for the Lord to be chastising you than for him not to be chastising you. Okay? So we good, bro. You know? But oh yeah, that's the point. You know? Lord, when this lesson was edifying to the hopeful elect, with that being said, I'm going to say call halal. YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH. The water, Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHWASHI, forgive me the spirit through this lesson. Our prayers of edifying to the hopeful elect. Double honors to our teachers, the elders, and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us as truth and sincerity. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered abroad. Shalom to the 144,000. Hey, stay in the spirit, stay girded. Okay, we almost out of here. All right? This is a necessary means to an end. No matter what you got to go through, get through it. So we can all meet up in those ships in the chariots with Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHWASHI. And we believe that, man. To these people of this world, that sounds crazy. You think you're gonna be in a spaceship with the Lord? Nah, nigga, that's our faith. Okay? And that's all we got. All right. So remember that, you know, hold on to that, you know, and you know, but believe in trust the process. Believe in the spirit of Yahweh BAHASHAM YAHWASHI. The Lord is not going to leave us or forsake us and leave us here lost and confused, man. Shalom.